A man leaves behind everything he knows, his country, his friends, his grief, to find a second chance at life and love. But behind the white picket fence and the promises of family bliss, something much darker was brewing. Tonight, we tell the story of Jason Corbett, a devoted father, a devoted husband, a man who never saw his betrayal coming until it was too late. Jason was born in Limerick, Ireland, a proud Irishman raised with strong family values. By his early 30s, Jason had what many would consider a charmed life, a successful job in packaging management, a close-knit family, and his high school sweetheart, Margaret Fitzpatrick. It was love at first sight. They got married in 2003 and had two beautiful children, Jack and Sarah. By all accounts, Jason remained a romantic man, and everyone thought they would live happily ever after. But life is cruel sometimes. In November 2006, when Sarah was just a baby, Mag suddenly collapsed and died from an asthma attack. Jason was shattered, left alone with two kids under 5. Desperate for help, he hired au pairs to be able to manage his home life as best he could. But among many he had hired, one au pair stood out. That au pair was Molly Martins. Molly was American, blonde, charming, and described by friends as all smiles. She had a psychology degree, though she had reportedly struggled with anxiety and depression herself. Her ex Keith said in an interview that Molly was bipolar, which sometimes made the relationship very hard and complicated. And Molly herself was sometimes so paralyzed by her condition that she couldn't even keep a job. But love has its ways, and Keith proposed after a year of being together. Shortly, Molly announced that she was looking for nannying jobs in Europe and left for Ireland. Keith knew that she wouldn't be able to hold on to any job, let alone being a nanny and working with somebody's kids. He even felt like something could go really wrong, but before he could convince her otherwise, she was gone. She had told Keith that she would only be gone for a week, but a week turned into 2, and Keith heard nothing. He got really worried because Molly had literally just left a psych ward. He didn't know what to do. But week 2, he gets an email from Molly saying that she wasn't sure if she was ever coming back and broke off the engagement. Keith believes that Molly had already started a relationship with Jason before she even bothered to email him and tell him that their engagement was off. Over time, their professional relationship had turned romantic. Jason believed he had found not just a caregiver for his children, but perhaps a second soulmate. What he remained in the dark about was Molly's mental condition. In June 2011, Jason and Molly got married. They moved across the ocean to Walberg, North Carolina, a quiet place with tree-lined streets and the kind of suburban calm many dream about. But dreams can lie. But behind closed doors, the marriage was turbulent. There were cracks. Reportedly, Molly lied, exaggerated, and made up stories which were pretty easy to see through, and this got Jason worried.
She would tell the most blatant lies, and I'd point out to her that she just said the exact opposite thing like an hour before that, so one of them had to be wrong. Saying that she was friends with Jason's former wife who had died tragically anyway, I mean, it's just amazing, the lies that she would say and think that people were going to believe. It's mind-boggling.
He had 2 kids living under the same roof. Of course, he was worried. One of his friends even warned him right before the wedding that he could still just walk away from the whole thing. But Jason, well, he was a romantic at heart. According to Jason's family, Molly became obsessed with controlling Jason, and more importantly, his children. She reportedly pushed to legally adopt Jack and Sarah, but Jason refused. Just 2 weeks after the wedding, Molly went to a divorce lawyer, not to file for a divorce or anything, but to ask about her rights to Jason's children. Jason was concerned. He was worried Molly's behavior was becoming more and more erratic. He told his sister Tracy, quote, "If something happens to me, look after the kids," end quote. Jason even drafted a will, naming his sister and her husband as the guardians, explicitly excluding Molly. It was August 2nd, 2015, 3 a.m. A 911 call. A voice, calm, almost rehearsed, came through the line.
Davidson County 911, what is the address of your emergency?
My name is Tom Martins. I'm at 160 Panther Creek Court, and we need help.
What's going on there?
My daughter's husband, my son-in-law, got in a fight with my daughter. I intervened, and I think he's in bad shape. We need help.
Okay, what do you mean he's in bad shape? He's hurt?
He's bleeding all over, and I may have killed him.
What is your name?
My name is Tom Martins.
Was he drinking?
Yes, he had been drinking during the course of the day.
Is he conscious at all?
No.
Is he breathing?
I can't tell.
All right, so we're going to start CPR. All right, I need you to make sure that his mouth and nose are clear.
It's a mess.
I'll set a pace for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. When he gets to 200 pumps, you're going to take over.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Keep pumping.
2, 3, 4.
The 911 dispatcher encouraged Tom and Molly to perform CPR on Jason, and weirdly, they hadn't started CPR on him before she asked them to do so, even though Tom, a former FBI agent, and Molly were both trained in CPR. Paramedics arrived at the scene within minutes, but Jason was pronounced dead at 3:24 a.m. There were 6 people at the house that night: Jason, Molly, Sarah, and Jack, who were sleeping in their rooms, and Molly's parents. Phone records showed that Molly had called her parents multiple times in the previous 24 hours, and they had shown up out of nowhere. Jason just met them at the door, picked up their bags, and invited them in. As reported by Tom and Molly, Jason had been drinking all afternoon and well into the evening, and at some point he had become volatile, even violent. They said that Jason had picked a fight with Molly over something trivial, and he had ended up trying to strangle her. But her dad Tom had walked in and defended Molly. He used a metal baseball bat that he had bought for Jack. What the investigators witnessed at the crime scene made them question everything about the crime they initially thought had taken place.
We're fighting.
And who's fighting?
My husband.
Okay. Is that a normal thing?
Yes.
So there's a history of domestic violence at the house?
Yes.
He was abusive.
Was Jason drinking this evening?
Yeah. Yes.
Would you say that you thought he was drunk?
Yes, he was drunk. He choked me because he wanted me to shut up, and I screamed.
So I opened the bedroom door, and he's got Molly by the throat. And I hit him. I hit him with the baseball bat. And he reaches out and he grabs the bat, and he's stronger than I am. And he pushes me down, and I'm scrambling on the floor, my glasses fall off. Now I'm thinking, he's going to kill me.
I hit him on the head.
You hit him on the head with what?
With the brick on my right hand.
I get back in the battle, and I get the bat back, and then he goes in.
Jason's skull was fractured. Blood soaked the carpet, the bedding, the walls. It was something right out of movies. But the thing was, the blood was almost dry, and Jason's body felt cold to the touch, and you know what that means. Jason had been dead for hours before the call to 911 had been made. A body usually feels noticeably cold to the touch within 4 to 6 hours after death and reaches room temperature in about 12 hours. Anyway, the evidence, the blood splatter, the lack of defensive wounds on Molly, the location of injuries, they all painted a different picture. Molly kept massaging her neck at the crime scene and during the interrogation, and she was asked by police officers to stop until they could get proper pictures of her to be able to rule out foul play.
Why do you keep grabbing your neck?
I'm sorry. It hurts.
I need to get some pictures and see if we can find any injuries.
As the investigation went on, it was found that Jason's injuries were consistent with being struck multiple times, including while he was on the ground. Experts testified that Jason may have been sleeping when the attack began. There were no signs of struggle around the bed, no defensive injuries on Molly, no bruising on her neck. Medical examiner Dr. Craig Nelson testified at trial, quote, "The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, consistent with multiple impacts. The injuries were not survivable." Jason had been struck so many times that the pathologist couldn't accurately count his injuries. He had even been struck by a brick sitting on their nightstand. What was a brick doing on the nightstand, you ask? Well, Molly said that she was going to paint them with the kids. It was like a decorative project. But there were also different stories involved in addition to what Tom and Molly had stated.
You know your husband didn't survive his injuries, right?
I didn't think so.
No, he didn't survive his injuries. At this point, after talking to your dad and talking to you, it looks like this is going to be self-defense, okay? I don't think that there's going to be an issue with that.
Jason's sister Tracy told the cops that the day before he died, Jason was looking for plane tickets to get him and the children on the next flight out to Ireland. He was leaving Molly, although Jason's computer was interestingly never found. Jack and Sarah told the police that there was physical abuse going on in their house and that they had seen their father assault Molly on multiple occasions. But guess what? They later told the police that they were coached to say that stuff, and none of it was true. All the police really had was a bunch of people saying that Molly had told them that Jason was physically abusing her with no solid witnesses except for Tom, who had killed Jason, and the kids and Tracy telling them that Jason was a good man who had never laid a hand on Molly and was actually trying to get away from her.
I never told them about any physical abuse, but I've told them about verbal abuse and mental and emotional.
And I don't think she told us everything. But he was very controlling and abusive.
In addition, toxicology results found that there was very little alcohol in Jason's system, even though Molly and Tom had both said that he was drinking all day. But what was found in his system was trazodone, which had been prescribed to Molly a couple of days before the murder, which the police stated was put in his system through a drink offered to him by his wife. As the case moved forward, a lot came to light. Among other things, the police found that not only were there no witnesses to these air quote physical abuses towards Molly, but there were many who came forward to tell them that they had witnessed Molly belittle and berate Jason on many occasions. They also found that Molly had placed recording devices all over the house and even in Jason's car to be able to support her allegations of Jason being an abusive husband. This initiative was reportedly advised by her friend Melissa Sams, who suggested that documenting alleged abuse could support an emergency custody application. Molly and Melissa communicated using coded language, referring to the recordings as audiobooks in their messages. Devices were installed in various locations, including the kitchen, living room, and master bedroom. One of these tapes was used during the trial to portray Jason as a violent husband. However, it came to light later on that these tapes were used selectively by Molly to support her narrative. The trial was a painful one for many. The images were so graphic that one of the jurors started throwing up. In 2017, Molly Martins and Thomas Martins were tried for second-degree murder. Jason's children, Jack and Sarah, testified. They spoke of a loving, protective father. Jack said plainly, "My dad never hurt my stepmom." After a lengthy trial, the jury found both guilty. Each was sentenced to 20 to 25 years.
A jury has returned a unanimous guilty verdict in the trial of a father and daughter accused of the second-degree murder of Limerick man Jason Corbett. The former FBI agent Thomas Martins and his daughter Molly, who was married to Mr. Corbett, had denied the charge, claiming self-defense.
But the Martins story wasn't over. In 2021, the North Carolina Supreme Court overturned the convictions, citing procedural errors, including the exclusion of statements from Jack and Sarah during interviews immediately after Jason's death. Facing retrial, the Martins took a plea deal in 2023, guilty to voluntary manslaughter. Sentences: 51 to 74 months. By mid-2024, they were free. Jason's sister Tracy Lynch said it best. Quote, "Jason deserved better. Jack and Sarah deserve better. The justice system failed us." End quote. Jason's daughter Sarah, now a teenager, later spoke in interviews about the lies Molly told, trying to make her believe her father was abusive. Lies that nearly rewrote Jason's legacy. Today, Jack and Sarah live with their aunt and uncle in Ireland. They work every day to rebuild the life their father fought to give them. Jason Corbett's story is not just about a brutal crime. It's about the battles fought after the violence ends. The battle for truth, for memory, and for justice. Thank you for joining us on Crime Alley Documentaries. If you or someone you know is trapped in an abusive or dangerous situation, please seek help. There is always a way out. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware. Please leave any theories or comments you might have for us down below. We're really interested to know what you think about this case.